today I'm going to preserve some lemons. I have some other things that I'm going to be making today, but I thought before I did that I'd start with the lemons. I have fresh lemons from my tree, so I'm thrilled. They're organic, but on top of which, you notice they're not perfect, and that's okay. They're not meant to be. This is going to be for preserved Moroccan lemons, and you just want them so that they're nice and luscious and juicy. So one of the things that I should point out is that you should definitely get kosher salt. I had this other salt that I thought was fine, and it turns out that it has something called yellow perceiat of soda, and that is a preservative that actually comes from cyanide, which apparently in very, very minute doses is okay to consume, and that most salt makers in the US use in order to keep the salt from clumping, because obviously if it gets any kind of moisture, certainly in more humid environments, the salt will clump. So that's what it's meant to do, is to keep it from clumping. But for this, because we're using a organic lemons, and we don't want anything left over in the taste except for the lemons, I'm using kosher salt. So that's one thing you should get. Easiest way, you cut off the ends, and you're going to cut down, not all the way through. You're going to cut these in four, sort of like to about there, so that they stay together. You want them to kind of open, but not be cut all the way through. Just going to cut them down like this, and then what you do is, and you can do this over a bowl because it's probably a little bit neater, because you're going to have a lot of salt. And you want to pour the salt down in between the lemon slices. And then you're going to stuff these in the jar as tight as you possibly can get them. So it might take a little bit of work to get them sort of down really tight upon each other. They're going to make juice of their own within a couple of days, and this is going to take a couple of days to do. So you're going to put in as many as you can get in on the first go. You're going to let them sit for a couple of days, and then they will squish down, in which case you can then push in a couple of more. I have 10 here, and in this quart jar, I don't think I'm going to get more than about 4 or 5 in at most. And it is a little tough to kind of push them in to get them around each other. Yep. This is going to be the last one that I'm going to be able to get in here. And even that is going to be tight. A little salt on top. And I'm going to seal this with this sealer that allows you to seal them so that there's no air inside, which I think is going to be better. The other thing is that you're not going to, these take a while to cure. I mean, like, some of the recipes say as much as a year. I think that depending on how you want them. If you want them really yellow like this, it's really only a month or two, and then you can start using them. I use them in chicken dishes, which are really great. So that's what we'll do. In a couple of days, we'll come back and we'll add some more. Also, I'm adding a little bit of bay leaf as well as peppercorns. And easiest way, they'll sink more as this gets a little bit more softened, but it helps to push one down with a chopstick if you have it. A knife could also work. And there you go. So this is after only a day. You can see how much juice there is in this one, but this one a little less. All of them are about half, but you can see how much these shrunk. So I'm going to put more lemons into each one and do this again. Now I take these lids off really carefully so that I don't damage the lid, because you want to be able to reuse it again. So we just go through the same thing. These lemons have already been cleaned and they're organic, so I don't have to worry about any kind of preservatives or wax or anything else like that's been put on. So again, pushing another one down. Now see, because this has gotten softer, this might take actually 2 more, which is ideal. And don't worry, you're not supposed to cut them beyond the bottom, but if it kind of doesn't matter. If they go in and they fit, so like in this case, I think it may only be able to get a half in. Pour a little bit more on top, and I'm going to seal that one. This is going to go into this one. Some of these lemons are pretty big, so I may or may not be able to get a whole one in which case doing them in halves isn't going to change anything. You're not using a whole lemon usually anyway, so in fact I'm going to cut this one in half because I don't think I can get this one in beyond. But now that they're softer, they go in a lot easier, I can tell you that, than the first go around. Okay. Wipe the tops of the jars again to make sure that they'll get a good seal. Top back on. And reseal.